So welcome to another edition of the UK Working Parents Network presentation. Right now we are hosting the Tips for Choosing the Right Summer Camps and Activities workshop. So here's our objectives for today. Our objectives include helping you learn about summer camp activities and just some tips for how to select a good fit for your child. We're going to acknowledge, hopefully you can acknowledge your personal motivations as well as your child's interests and needs in attending summer camps or summer activities. Also, hopefully you can acknowledge some possible pitfalls or hiccups or challenges when it comes to selecting the summer camps that make the most sense for you. And then consider practical and realistic fit for your child. Like there's different things about your children that you know that maybe no one else knows. So that will help you in selecting the best fit for them. Okay, let's talk camp basics. I wanted to start here with camp basics because I know that depending on your role and if this is your first time looking for camps or not, you may or may not be familiar with the various types of camps. So there's various types of camps in a very general category. So for example, there are day camps where you send your child there for the day and then they come home at the end of the day or half a day or a few hours. So that's what we consider a day camp. Then there are overnight camps. That's where they go off, for example, like a 4-H camp would be an overnight camp. And then there's some other camps that you can send them to for a whole week or 2 or 3 days. So there's different camps where they spend the night. That's a day camp versus an overnight camp. And then there's like the partial day camps versus the all day camps. The partial day camp could be something like 9 to 12 or 8 to 1 or 8 to 2. Or even like a 9 to 3. That's sort of a almost all day, but not quite. An all day camp would be probably starting about 8 to 4, and sometimes they'll have those extensions. So let's just say the camp starts at 9, it goes 9 to 4. Sometimes they'll have an early drop-off option or a late pickup option. So sometimes with the partial or even all day camps, if the camp doesn't cover your entire working day, they may offer the option for you for an additional fee sometimes, and sometimes there isn't an additional fee. They have the option for you to drop your child off before the camp starts, and it may be like a half an hour early or 1 hour early, and then pick the child up to maybe a half an hour later, again, depending on what time they in. And then, of course, there's local camps, depending on your community, whether you live in Lexington or one of our surrounding counties. There's local camps, there's regional camps, so it may be like a county or two over. Of course, there's camps in other states and so forth. And then when you think about the camp categories, this is just kind of the focal point for the camp. It does not mean that this is the only category of activities that camp offers necessarily, but that's kind of the main focus of the camp. So there's academic, adventure, arts, family. General is kind of usually one of those where they offer such a variety of things. Religious, military, scouts, service organization types of camps, sporting camps, or also called athletics, special needs camps, technology, and theme. When it comes to special needs, depending on the special need, all camps for the most part have a requirement to provide a certain amount of accommodation. So if your child has some type of special need, but let's just say it's something that's mild to moderate, you can contact that camp to kind of talk to them about, here's the concern with my child. Can you accommodate or do you accommodate for that? There are some very specific special needs camp that are more moderate to severe, but that's just something to keep in mind. If your child has any type of special need, it could be something where you feel like it's kind of mild, but they may need a little assistance, or people just need to be aware of it, to something that's more severe. And then, of course, there's technology camps and then theme-based camps. Sometimes these theme-based camps could be something like an arts camp where the theme is fairy tales or, something like that. All right, there are so many things that you should consider when you are going to choose a camp. So feel free to take notes at this point, or just think about it, or listen to the recording later. So of course you want to think about your child's interests. So if your child is really interested in writing or drawing or swimming or whatever their activities may be or their interests may be, think about camps that offer that. That's just something. Think about their child's personality, their abilities, their skills, their special needs, their maturity level. Super important to think about that. The child personality, the reason we say that, let's just say your child is a little more reserved, a little more quiet. If you send them to a camp that's go, 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 go all day, that child may be miserable. If there's no downtime, and these are things you may not think about, you may just be like, this is a great camp. They can be there from 8 to 5. I need that entire time covered. And then when you look at that camp's itinerary and you find out, oh, they're going to be outside 90% of the time, and they're going to have activities 80% of the time. And you got to think about your child's personality, like how is that going to go over for the child? On one hand, if the child is adaptable, you may go, they're just going to be super tired at the end of the day, but they'll be fine. If that is not the case, or that's just not going to work for them, that's just something to think about. Because the child may be miserable and they may be calling you saying, come pick me up, or they may not want to go the next day. So that's just something to think about. And then of course, their abilities, skills, special needs, maturity level. Maturity level is huge as well, especially depending on the camp and what the camp is asking them to do. So if your child, it doesn't even, and when I say maturity level, I'm not even talking about age, because your child could be a 6-year-old and have a pretty high maturity level, or they can be an 11-year-old and they don't have a pretty high maturity level. Again, thinking about the camp itself and what types of activities that they're going to need them to do. Are they able to follow directions? Do they want to follow directions? So you got to think about those types of things. And it could be that it works just fine, but you just need to think about that. And you may need to have a couple extra conversations with your child or somehow motivate them to participate in activities. So these are things to think about. And then parents' readiness and motivation. I put this in here just to remind you that as a parent, are you ready to send your child off to this camp activity? And especially when you're thinking about overnights or all day even. I know as working parents, oftentimes you're probably looking for an all day camp, or at least one that covers the majority of the day, because that may be the best option for you. But even when you're thinking about that, depending on the activities for that camp, you still got to think about your child's interest and personality and all of that. So your motivation, for example, could be, I just need them covered someplace while I work for the whole day. So just, it's okay to acknowledge that. And if that's the case, for a lot of us, that is the case. You need them someplace safe while you work during the summer. It's okay, just own that and know that, but also think about those other character things that we just talked about to consider. Think about your child's ability to deal with stress, transitions. I know my youngest son always has had issues with transitions. So, again, depending on the activities of that camp, oftentimes you want to look at a schedule, and they can give you schedules. So, and you can just let the camp people, the leaders know that your child has issues with transitions, so that they can tell them 15 minutes before the activity is going to change that, okay, guys, we're getting ready to change to this next activity. Start gathering your items. And it may be 15 minutes before, but maybe your child needs those clues to start mentally transitioning. If they try to transition them in like 1 minute, let's change, they may have a fit. So these are things to think about. Your child's ability to deal with stress, transitions, follow directions. How do they do with schedules? And then, of course, you have to think about your finances. What are your finances? What can you afford to do? And then you may want to start thinking about, if I'm going to have to send my child to camp all summer or some sort of activity all summer, how much is that going to cost me? Like, have I started putting money to the side, or whatever your plan is to pay for that? So that's something, sometimes when you're just thinking, let's find these camps, you'll start finding that they're not inexpensive. And some of them, you can find some pretty good rates, and some of them offer UK discounts, so that's helpful, a discount for UK employees. But even with the discount, sometimes if you're trying to find coverage for an entire summer or most of the summer, that adds up super quickly. So you just got to think about your family finances and just how that's going to work. Sometimes places will offer sibling discounts. So, you want to ask about those kinds of things. Think about your family schedule. When you're choosing this, do you have a family reunion coming up? Do you have some kind of trip vacation plans, those kinds of things. So you just want to think about your schedule. If you have multiple children or multiple people in a house with multiple schedules doing different things, you may have to also think about who's going to drop the child off, who's going to pick the child up. Do you need to hire like a sitter or a nanny just to do that? So you got to really think about the schedule. And then of course your, overall, what are your childcare needs? Here's some really quick things to think about when it comes to knowing the camp. Oh, okay, thank you. Here's some other things to think about. So when it comes to knowing the camp details, these are things that you're going to see. Most of them you won't even need me to tell you this, but I just thought I'd want to say it anyway. So you want to know what times they start and stop. Do they have early drop off, pickup, late pickup, that kind of thing? Where are they located? What are the specific activities? And oftentimes camps will rotate activities. So on one day they may do this activity, on another day they may do something completely different. That's super important for you to know because you may have to dress your child differently based on what activity is occurring that day. So you may be like, well, I'm sending them every day, that's fine. But usually the camps will give you some information that say, here's what we're doing this week, here's the days we're doing certain activities. Sometimes they'll even give you additional details such as on Wednesday, we're doing tie-dye. You need to bring a white t-shirt, things like that. Or we're going to the pool on Thursday. They need to bring $5 extra if they go to the pool and they want a snack. So oftentimes the camps will do a really good job of giving you these details. So as a parent, make sure you read everything. So let's just say they email you a summary or they give you a handout. Here you go, here's our schedule for the week. And you're like, thanks. You put it in your bag or purse and you go on about put it in your pocket and go about your business. If you don't read that carefully, you may miss something. Your child may have to sit out an activity. Your child may not be prepared for an activity when they show up, those kinds of things. So these are just sort of the details and why you want to think about this. You want to think about the recommended ages for some of the camps and activities. Again, if you have if they say 6 to 12, these are our age ranges. That may be great for you and your child. You may not have any issues with that. But if you do, again, thinking about the activities, you may say, my child, you can tell them not to let them participate in certain activities on certain days if you feel like that is too much or for whatever reason, you just don't feel safe with that activity. So just keep up with the itinerary, read it carefully, check it every day to make sure you haven't missed anything, because I know you have busy schedules and you have a lot going on and it could be very easy to miss something. All right. And then, you want to think about what they're going to require of your child, the staff to camper ratio, that's important. So for example, if they say we have a 1 to 6 ratio, so that means we have 1 staff member to 6 campers. That's pretty good, especially depending on, for most ages, that's probably pretty good. If they say we have like a 1 to 15 ratio and you're talking about a bunch of 6-year-olds, that's pretty high. And so again, even with that, thinking about your child, does your child need a little more attention or a little more structure, a little more focus? That ratio may be too high for them. And then if someone else can have a 6-year-old and you're like, they're fine. No big deal, because of course, they went to kindergarten and they had 20 people in their room, 1 teacher, and they were fine. So you just want to know that. It's just good to ask those questions. And then you want to ask what's flexible, and that's kind of back to are there certain activities that they can sit out and say, I'm not going to do that? Are there certain things that they have to do? Are there certain days they can miss? I mean, in some camps will say you have to pay for let's just say it's a week as an example. They may say you have to pay for the whole week, even if your child is out for 2 days, you have to pay for the whole week. There is no like half week schedule pay and that kind of thing. You have to pay for the whole week, even if they're there 2 days. If they're sick a day or 2, nope, there's no refund for that. So you just want to ask these types of questions. If for some reason my child gets sick, do I get a refund? They're probably going to say no, because they've already counted those funds in their planning. But it's good to ask those questions just in case for some reason they say, if you give us a certain day notice, we can prorate you for the day or the week or something like that. Ask the questions just so that you're prepared. Ask about transportation. If they're going to be transporting your child to and from certain activities, such as going to the movies, going to the pool, going to the park, or whatever activities they may be doing, what does that transportation look like? Who's driving? Is there an official like van with 12 people that can get on it, or are they driving people in are they walking down the street 3 blocks to go to the pool? Just ask the questions so that you're just not surprised. And if you're not comfortable with that, you can ask whatever questions you need to, or you can plan accordingly if you want to volunteer that day, or something like that, or not let them go that day because you don't want them to do that activity. So these are just things to think about, right? Okay. And then I just want you to also think, I know I just covered a lot of things in here on things you should consider before choosing a camp. And we're just at the beginning of the presentation still. But what else should you consider? And that's just a question for you. I'm going to cover more tips, but you may have some immediate thoughts coming to mind saying, oh, what about this? What about this? I may be about to cover that in just a moment. All right. So here's something on what camps wish parents knew. So I reached out to some of our camp vendors who have attended some of our camp fairs and have listed their information on our website. And I just asked them, like, what do you wish parents knew? When they getting ready to send their child to your camp or your activity, could be, I say activity and camp because let's just say it's a 1-day activity all day, or it's 2 days this week or something like that. They may not consider that a camp. It may just be kind of an activity. So here's some things that I heard back from the camps. So first question, how do you select a camp? What should you look for in the camp activities? And then they said, prioritize what works in your schedule and your partner's schedule first. So basically looking at your family schedule. They also said, look for activities that your children don't always get exposed to at school. I thought that was an interesting way, a different thing. So for example, if your child doesn't do a lot of science activities at school, but you want them to be exposed to science activities or more of it, or they don't get to swim a lot and you want them to go to a swim camp, that's one way to think about that. They also said, don't always pick your child's favorites. I thought that was really interesting because we're talking about thinking about their interest, which is important. But they said, don't always pick their favorites. Think about helping them to expand their knowledge and opportunities. So think about helping them expand. So, that was a good one. I thought, okay, that's a good point. And they said parents should consider their child's interests and not their own. Their child's interest and not their own. We've been talking about that a bit. And I like that they just said, not your own, because you may love certain things and you think my child would love it, and they might. So it could be a part of that, exposing them to it, and they get exposed to it and they learn a little bit more and they discover, oh, I do kind of like that. Or they may not. You just don't know sometimes. And here's the next question. What do you wish parents knew before they sent their child to your camp or activity? And here's some of the comments. Your children will be okay without you, even though it might be a really new experience, or they are shy or nervous. We do everything we can to ensure a smooth transition. Also, another comment was, we will absolutely call or text if there's a challenge that is overwhelming. So their point there was like, your child may have a challenging moment, but they will deal with it. But if they cannot, know that they will reach out to you. So you don't have to worry about that. Another point was they expect children to be polite and treat others well. And then they're very interested in the topic. So they want you to make sure they're interested in the topic. They may excel in the subjects in school, and they may want to learn more. So that's something to think about. And then also, what do you need from children attending your camp? One person said passion and energy to try something new. Thought that was pretty good too. And then curiosity and a desire to learn more about all different types of science. So this was a science type of camp. So just not just one type of, different types. And then any other advice? One person says prep your child for the transition. Again, I thought that was good advice. Prep them for the transition. All right, so prepare as a parent. We've been talking about planning ahead, like you guys are doing wonderfully. here it is February and you're starting to look, that's great. Know the types of camps we've talked about. There's different types of camps. And when you're looking up camps on either the Work Life website or some other local or regional website, they're going to give you really good details of what type of camp it is. They may not give you like details such as the schedule or the itinerary. So you have to ask for that information. So determine if it's a good time to send your child to camp. Again, maturity level, interests, whatever else is going on in your life and your family. Talk to your child about the camp options. So this one is interesting. It's kind of basically alluding to don't just pick something. And depending on your situation and circumstances, you may just have to pick something for them. But also just kind of talk to them about, hey, would you like to attend a soccer camp? Would you like to attend, whatever camp? And sometimes, depending on the child's age, especially if they're a little bit older, they're often able to tell you, yes, that sounds great, that sounds fun. And then you're going to get great buy-in from them by doing that as well. Deal with your own emotions. So if you may have know that you may have some separation anxieties, or you may have mixed emotions about sending in a camp, especially if this is the first time. And especially depending on your child's temperament and personality and other things going on with your child, you may have mixed emotions about sending them. So just know that that may happen. Expect it, anticipate it, and manage it. See what you can do to manage it. And then know how the camp will communicate. So sometimes camps will say, check our social media page. That's where we post updates on what's happening this week. If anything changes, we'll post it there. Sometimes they'll have some sort of a link like a GroupMe or Remind or some other type of app that you can join where they will post updates for the day, or if changes happen with the schedule. Or sometimes they'll just give you, here's a weekly newsletter, here's what we're doing this week. So whatever it is, send text messages to you, know how they communicate. And then and with that, also have like the phone number for like the camp director or the leader of your group, your child's group, if there's several leaders, have that person's phone number, if they're okay with sharing it, saved in your phone. So if you do have a concern or a quick question, or, and offer them your phone number. Say, here's my number if you want it. Now, of course, they're going to have it on your application information and all of that. So they may say, no, thank you, we're good. But if they're okay with sharing their number with you, especially if you think your child may be a little nervous about going to the activity or the camp, and if they're okay with you reaching out just to check on them, because sometimes they will say, feel free to check anytime. Check anytime, anytime throughout the day, but they will be fine, but feel free to check just to kind of give the parents some peace of mind. So you just want to ask them about communication. What do they prefer? And how do they communicate? And then, how do you choose a camp? Do your research, consider your budget, consider your child's interests, dates, times, locations, fees, any UK discounts or any other discounts. Always ask about discount options, because let's just say they offer a military discount, veterans discount, whatever kind of discount. It may be something you didn't even know to ask about. So just ask, do you offer any kind of discounts? Like, what are they? Just in case you qualify for any of them. And then this is just another kind of parent's tip to another parent tip type of thing. So like we had the camp vendors tips to parents, and now we got kind of like the parent to parent. You'll see some of these are very similar, but just want to mention them anyway. So ask your child if they want to attend the camp. That's like another parent saying, ask them, because you don't want to sign them up for something and it's like a terrible time for you and them. Don't send them just because their siblings attended the camp. So let's just say their older sister or brother like that particular type of activity or camp, and you're thinking, oh yeah, that place was great. For one, camps, sometimes the directors and the leaders change, sometimes their focus changes over the years. So one activity that was maybe fabulous for your child 5 years ago may have changed hands a couple of times with leadership and directors. So you want to kind of make sure, you want to check, don't just assume, oh, this was a great option, because they may have changed some of their policies or procedures or anything like that. So you just want to make sure. And then of course, just simply the interest of your child. Your child may be like, I don't like that. I don't want to go there. And then consider how they get along with others. Consider their interest, personality, maturity. And then again, looking for those discounts. So just want to throw this in because so many of, I know the parents are like, have really young children. And when you're talking about preschoolers or little bitties, you know, like they're 4 years old, they're 5 years old, they're 6 years old, sometimes there's things that are a little more sensitive than like with an older child. So, you know, thinking about their personalities, you know, have they ever been to camp before? Have they ever been out of your space before? Have they ever been someplace without their siblings? Or, you know, just think about readiness, age appropriateness, the types of camps, specialty versus general, full day versus half day. If this is your first time and you are able to, sometimes a half day camp is a good way to start with a young child. If you can do it that way and not have to do the full day, especially if you're concerned about how they're going to adjust to it. Sometimes a half day may be a good way to start. And then if they can go with a buddy, I didn't think to say that earlier, but if you do have a buddy, like a friend, a neighbor, a classmate, best friend, you know, even a sibling, if there's someone else that can go to the camp that's going to that same activity that they're going to, even if they're not in the exact same classes all the time, activities all the time, that may help a younger child feel more comfortable going if their sibling that's 2 years older is going with them as well, or their friend from school is also going. So that sometimes that's helpful. Safety, consider safety. Again, little children, think about the safety, transportation, the staff, and the cost. So here's some signs that you maybe your child's not ready. So here's some signs you should not send your child to camp. And this first one is just kind of overnight. If they have trouble sleeping without a parent nearby, like if you're considering an overnight camp and this child, maybe they wake up 3 times in a night and they get in your bed, or they come to get you for something, or they need water, or they just thinking about if you're thinking of an overnight camp and they can't sleep through the night, or they have issues with sleeping for whatever reason, that maybe they're not ready for that just yet. Or maybe you can try it, but it's just good for you to think about it. And then it's awakened frequently throughout the night, unable to go to a regular sleepover with family or friends. So like if they've ever tried to sleep over with a family member or a friend and they call you 3 times, or they're upset about doing that, then they're probably not ready for overnight camp. Not yet anyway. And then maybe if they have significant medical conditions that require extra attention and assistance, I mentioned that, and this could be during the day or overnight. If they have, all camps have to accommodate to a certain degree. And so you want to ask them about their accommodations if your child has some sort of medical condition or extra need. And if they can accommodate, you want to make sure you're talking to the director as well as whoever's actually going to be working with your child. So you may say, oh, I talked to the director. They said it was fine. Yes, of course they can do this. Okay, that sounds great. But they're not the person that's actually going to be working with your child throughout the day. So you want to ask them who exactly is going to be working. Can I talk to that person? So I know these are extra steps sometimes you may need to take, but I just wanted to mention this just in case you need to think about this. Okay, so if they have trouble being away from you for any extended periods of time, or if they have extreme anxiety or worry or stress, especially with new activities, and I mentioned like the transition issues, again, you may be able to do this. They may be able to go and participate in these activities, but you just need to be thinking about, okay, what is going to help them be successful? So like that example I gave earlier, let the leaders know this child's going to need like 15-minute heads up. They're going to need you to help them start putting their things away. Once you help them a little bit, then they can do the rest themselves. Like, do they need visual cues? Do they need like eye contact, whatever? Just kind of talk that through a bit with them. And then here's a few other notes. Only you will know if your child is ready for camp. So of course, this question here is like, maybe you need to kind of evaluate, is it time for them to go or not? But in the end of the day, only you can say, my child is ready. Consider not forcing them to go. I know that can be a little bit of a challenge if you are a full-time working parent and you really need them to go to camp because you really need that child care coverage. So selecting camps is going to be even that much more critical if they have to go someplace. And there's like early walkthroughs with some of the locations. Sometimes that's something you can do if you really need them to go and they really are like hesitant or you're not sure how they're going to do. Maybe their camp starts, in 1 week and you just take them to the location and you walk around and you go to the different rooms or activities and kind of get them excited about it. So that's something you can work out with that camp director or camp leader. Just say, my child's a little nervous, can I come by and just see the site or see the location, see some of the activities? And more than likely they'll say, sure, come on by, and they'll let you know when it's a good time. But that's one way to help your child just kind of get ready. So here's some things. Nervousness or anxiety about camp is normal. So even if they're super excited, like, yeah, I'm going to art camp. Oh yeah, I'm going to soccer camp. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They've been happy, excited about it for weeks. And now it's like 2 days before, and now they're like, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. Or they're just super nervous. So just know that's normal, because the reality is like they're getting ready to go into this new environment. And so they may be a little nervous, and so you get to just try to ease that for them and say, it'll be fine. You're going to meet people. And again, thinking about your child's personality, if your child is kind of reserved or shy or quiet, saying they're going to meet new people may not be the thing to say. But if they're kind of outgoing, they like meeting new people, then that's the thing to say. Maybe you focus on the activities if they're kind of the quiet, like, I don't know if I want to be around all these people. You just focus on activities that they're going to participate in, and maybe that is how you get them excited. Also, camps should have a system in place to help your child that's having a hard time. And so like when earlier when I said the camps said, just know that you may be nervous, a child may be nervous, but they will take care of it and they will call you if they absolutely need to. So they do have processes. They know, they get children all the time that's a little nervous or hesitant or even don't want to cooperate. They have strategies to help your child. So here's some benefits to attending a summer camp. Benefit 1, boost your child's self-confidence. 2, help your child appreciate nature or outdoor activities if it's that type of a camp. And then it could be like building skills, right? Promote physical health and well-being, learn new skills or life-sustaining skills. When I say life skills, it could be just some activities where they learn certain things that's helpful to them in their everyday life. Improve fine gross motor skills. Maybe they're drawing, maybe they're painting, maybe they're running, they're doing activities. So they're improving their gross and fine motor skills. Improve their cognitive skills, maybe even their conflict resolution skills or their all kinds of skills they're developing there. The child becomes more independent. They're able to make choices and think on their own. So like, they go to these activities for a whole week or 2 weeks, and then they come home and they're like, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it, and you're like, wow, okay. And so their confidence has been built by doing these new activities and learning these new things. And then maybe they can learn to work with others and share or collaborate, especially if they're an only child or maybe they're the youngest child or whatever. That could be some opportunities to help them to learn and share and to collaborate and cooperate with others. Make new friends or bond greater with current friends outside of school in particular, especially if there's when you're in school setting is different than when you're in a camp setting. So school settings, oftentimes the teachers have to transition, and they have, they may be doing things the child is really not that particularly interested in doing, but they have to because it's academics and it's school. But if they're in a camp setting, sometimes they may have more downtime and more just doing what they want to do and what they enjoy. So, and they may get to just build friendships a little with people that have similar interests sometimes. And when the camp is over, it may be someone they can even follow up with and stay friends with. So that's something to think about. And so sometimes they simply learn to appreciate you as a parent and the small things that you do for them. Here's the unintended benefits to parents. Plan something special, like say, okay, your child is gone for a day or all day. Plan something special for yourself while the child is away. It could be you take a day off, you take a half day off, or you go in. If you're working from home, you don't have them around, you can do some extra things. So there's just some extra benefits, unintended, like didn't even plan on these benefits. Time to work on projects because the child is not around the house running about the whole day, especially if you're working from home. So maybe you can focus on work, you can focus on other projects. Time to relax or rest. You know, again, they're not there. So, and then plan special time or activities with friends or partners. If you're missing your child, remember they'll return soon. So it's possible you're going to miss them, but hopefully they'll come in and have great activities, stories, and they'll say, oh, it was so fun and we did these great things. All right. On our last slide here, we're just talking about, I'm just want to let you know that we do have our website up for work life, where we are collecting camp information, and we will be doing this for months. Like we started in January, and I think we're up to 20 maybe camps that have listed their information on our website. And so you are welcome to, I encourage you to revisit this site often, because camps are always adding, because lots of camps are still finalizing their details and their plans. Some camps have already finalized them. So maybe you'll make this a bookmark, or you just make a note to check once a week, twice a week, and just see if there's any new camp listings that may interest you and your child. So I do thank you for participating in this workshop today. Hopefully I shared some tips that you found helpful and encouraging.